Are you ready, Sylvia? Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's Monday, July 19th, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. And Robin, would you please take the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Westfall? Here. Councilmember Murray? Here. Councilmember Slurt?
Here.
Mayor Schlong?
And I'm here. Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Slurt, would you mind
Certainly.
leading the Pledge of Allegiance? If you would all please stand.
Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We just came out of closed session, and I'm going to call on Bob Black to summarize any final actions taken and the fact that we are going to reconvene at a later time.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. We were not able to conclude the closed session, so we will be continuing closed session at the end of the business meeting. No final actions were taken during the first part of the closed session, and no final actions are expected during the second part of the closed session.
Right, and if anyone would like to comment on closed session items, I will take public comment once again for convenience at the end of this meeting. Okay, we're going to move on. We have no acknowledgments this evening, but I would like to move on to business with the consent calendar, approval of our regular meeting minutes of July 6th, approval of our warrant claims for July 7th through July 19th, and our biweekly payroll reports for July, ending July 3rd, paid July 9th.
Madam Mayor, I'd move to approve the consent calendar as presented with the exception of one typo.
Okay.
On page 6 of the meeting minutes, the second to the last line of the second paragraph, it refers to Mayor Burns, and last time I checked, you're still the mayor.
Sorry about that, Kelly.
Darn. I will happily leave that title with Mr. Burns. So noted. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you. We are going to quickly adjourn to the Crescent City Housing Authority. And note that 4 council members are here with Mr. Burns not present. And at this point, I will take any public comment on housing authority issues, if there is any. Okay, seeing no public comment, we will close public comment and move on to the consent calendar. We are approving our regular meeting minutes of June 21st and our warrant claims paid June 22nd through July 19th.
I would move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. We do not have a housing director's report tonight, but I would like to welcome Megan Miller,
Thank you.
our new housing authority director. And this is her first official meeting, so welcome.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you here, and if you have anything to say, you're welcome to do so.
I don't have anything really to say, just that I'm happy to be here. It's nice to work with you all.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We have no actual business on the Housing Authority agenda this evening, so we're going to adjourn. And we are going to open the Crescent City Redevelopment Agency meeting at this point. And note once again that 4 of us are present, with Mr. Burns absent. And I will take any public comment on our redevelopment agency, if you have any redevelopment issues. Okay, seeing no public comment, we'll close public comment and move to approve our consent calendar, meeting minutes of June 21st and warrant claims June 22nd through the 19th of July.
I would move to approve the consent calendar as Offered.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. We have no executive director's report, but we do have some new business. Item number 3, we will entertain authorizing the city manager to submit an HOME grant application on behalf of the Del Norte Point multifamily apartment project. And this is good to see on the agenda. Finally, it's nice to see some movement. I was starting to wonder. I think we all were. So, Mr. Butler, if you'd like to summarize this.
Thank you, Madam Agency Chair and members of the agency board. You are correct that and actually several of you during the time that I've been here have asked me about the status of the Del Norte Point apartment project. And we have tonight some potentially exciting news to share. The company that is the developer on this project is still very interested in moving forward. And what I'm going to do is introduce a representative of that company now to give kind of an overview of the project and what we're requesting this evening. And then I will conclude with some comments and kind of sum up the specific recommendations that staff has for you this evening. So we have, believe it or not, there are still some real live developers in Southern California. They haven't all gone bankrupt in the the downturn, and this company actually has weathered things fairly well. So we have this evening Tara Barauskas from what is now McFarland Costa Housing Partners, and Tara is going to present a PowerPoint for you on this project.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Somewhat technically challenged, so glad that worked. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Tara Barauskas, and I'm here on behalf of McFarlane Costa Housing Partners. We used to be Simpson Housing, in case you're more familiar with that name. We are the owners of the land at 1126 E Street and also the developers of this proposed project. And yes, it definitely has been a while. We bought the property, I want to say, in 2003. We actually did get tax credits on the property, and we're ready to move forward. We pulled our building permits, and then when we went out to bid, the bids came back $3 to $4 million higher than what we had budgeted. So pretty much the project just ground to a halt, and the last few years what we've been doing is lining up some additional financing. So we've gotten about $3 million more, which would basically cover that gap, with hopefully some assistance from the city as well. So that's why it's sort of been taking a while, but we're back on and here tonight to tell you a little bit about the project. So in case you're not familiar, it's at 1126 E Street, which is right next to the Joe Hamilton Elementary School. So great location, walking distance from lots of amenities. It's about 4 acres, and what we're proposing is 73 units of affordable housing that will be geared towards families. So the unit mix is going to be 12 2-bedrooms, 48 3-bedrooms, and 12 4-bedrooms. And that'll be 6 3-story buildings. Here's some pretty pictures of the property. So basically what we're hoping to achieve is to provide some newly constructed affordable housing for families that earn between 30% and 60% of the area median income. So 100% of the units will be restricted to these households. Obviously it'll be a great use for the property instead of a vacant piece of land. And we're hoping that we can contribute towards the City of Crescent City's affordable housing requirements. We pride ourselves in building, first of all, very nice-looking projects with lots of amenities. We'll have playgrounds and barbecue areas and landscaping and all kinds of nice things. And we'll have a clubhouse that has a computer center and a fitness center. We pride ourselves in trying to provide sort of a community atmosphere and doing lots of activities and services and that sort of thing. We're also big on energy efficiency, so all of the units will have energy efficient appliances and some other energy efficient features. We will provide free internet service in our computer center, and we'll have computer training classes as well. And we'll also have some other services like, home ownership counseling, financial planning, all kinds of things to empower the residents. So I don't know if you can really see this very well, but this is the site plan. So I guess you can make out 6 buildings and a clubhouse. So that's the general layout. And this is the elevation.
It's very hard to see. What is the elevation?
It's basically just showing the 3-story building. It'll be hardy plank exterior. All the units will have balconies or patios.
What is the height of the 3 stories?
Well, I'm not really sure. I know it meets the requirement, but I'm not really sure on that. So it is currently entitled for the proposed use. I think we've extended our entitlements one time. So it's zoned R3 for multifamily. And as I mentioned earlier, we've been lining up some other financing sources. And, there are a lot of agencies that are very excited about this project. So we've gotten $2 million from the state of California's Prop 1C infill program. And then another almost $1 million from the Affordable Housing Program, which is through the Federal Home Loan Bank. I think that's what we've got lined up. So, obviously that helps towards the project feasibility. So the last piece of the puzzle, once we talk tonight about, whether you are able to assist us, is the tax credits, which makes up probably about 60% of the project financing. So we get points. It's a competitive program, and we get points based on public funding sources. So the more we commit, the better off this project will be, the more competitive. So our goal is to apply for tax credits in March and, hopefully get the award in June. And since we have, construction drawings done, we just have to update them, pull our permits, and get started. So hopefully do that before it starts raining. So that's sort of the game plan. Not to boggle you too much with, the details, we're looking at a total project cost of about $20 million. I've already talked a little bit about some of the other financing sources. One of the financing sources, which I believe the mayor mentioned, is the home fund application. This would be for about $1.6 million, and is sort of one of the last pieces of the puzzle. It does require that the city is the applicant, so basically we would put together the application and then the city would just submit it on our behalf. There would probably be an annual report that the city would have to prepare about our project just to make sure we're in compliance. I don't think it's going to be too burdensome from what I understand. And just a little bit about us. We actually started in 1994 as Kaufman and Broad's Multi-Housing Division, and then we were sold to Simpson Housing in the year 2000. And now here we are as McFarlane Costa Housing Partners. We actually purchased ourselves from Simpson Housing. Mike Costa is our president. He's been around since the beginning. Our only business has been affordable housing. We've built about 275 affordable communities to date throughout California, and we've done some in other states as well, but our main focus is California. We've won some awards for design, so we're pretty excited about that. And I guess, one thing I definitely want to mention is that we are long-term owners, so we're not just developers and then we sell our properties. Our intent is to build a portfolio that is a well-managed, attractive, and well-performing portfolio. So that's sort of our business plan. So that's just a brief summary, so I'm available if you have any questions.
I have several. I'm just curious if your project budget today is $20 million. Have you got do you have a new bid?
We don't have a hard bid, but we've had several contractors give us sort of some good estimates. So,
Okay.
We can't really do a hard bid without real drawings.
And I'm just wondering if because some of, it's public funds, if you go out to bid, are you open to hiring local contractors?
Absolutely, yeah. We think it's a smart thing to do, actually, because they'll be more familiar with the current conditions.
Okay. I'm assuming that the construction costs when you first came up with your budget would be significantly lower in today's economy. And so I'm wondering the difference between, what I would see is probably a budget that will come in lower than what it was in 2003 versus your need for additional funding.
Yeah, definitely some of the costs have come down, but there's also been some additional changes to the Title 24, so it's sort of rounding out about the same. You know, it's for more Title 24 requirements, you know, to meet the minimum standard, so.
Okay. And with a $20 million budget, what is the square footage of the project?
Hold on. And just so you know, that 20 million includes everything, so it includes, you know, architecture, the cost of the land, and interest carry and everything, so that's all inclusive. The square footage is approximately 95,000 for the whole, all the buildings combined.
Okay. So what's that work out to be per square foot? Do we know?
200.
Seems pretty high.
It's going to be a little misleading, Madam Mayor, because it's including the soft cost, which typically aren't factored when you do a cost estimate for the structure itself or cost per square footage
Okay.
basis.
Sure, right, yeah, just for example, just the land price and the architecture and everything is $1.3 million. So, and then interest carry, you know, is pretty significant as well. It's about 400,000. So, yeah, so that's all inclusive.
Okay. And Rod, does the RDA board approve of the final plans?
My understanding is that the project has been fully entitled with this design, and so there would be no further design review. The agency's role would be in approving financial assistance at this point.
Okay. Well, I thought I heard her say that the project had changed, so.
Well, no, we had it entitled and then we just extended our entitlements.
Okay, all right. Just a couple other questions. On the $1.6 million application, is there an admin fee for the city if we're going to be filing reports?
There is.
Yeah, we talked about that,
Okay.
made sure that that will be factored in.
Check that off.
Yeah, I think it's about either 75 or 100,000.
Okay, great. And you said that you're a long-time developer. You know, you don't develop and then go away. So do you have someone that does on-site management from your company, or how does that work?
We do. Actually, we have a pretty big asset management department, and because obviously we apply for tax credits and other financing sources, there's a lot of compliance. So we ourselves go and audit our properties every quarter, and, you know, we're very involved. But we hire third-party professional property managers that actually live on site. So, you know, we just make sure that they're doing everything they're supposed to do.
Okay.
You know, we stay in regular contact with them.
Great. And last question is probably more towards our city manager. How does this affect our commitment to the other low-income multifamily housing project on Northcrest Drive?
Yeah, the good news for us is that we have enough funding currently in our low and moderate income housing fund to not only give the amount to this project, or to loan the amount to this project that previous agency boards had approved, but we can significantly increase that amount and still have funding left over for the Northcrest project, other things that may come down the pipeline. And keep in mind that we have new money coming in of anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000 a year in our low and moderate income set-aside fund. So that funding stream continues coming in each year. The Northcrest project, just based on my perceptions of having talked to both developers, I don't think they're anywhere near as serious about moving forward as McFarland Costa Housing is on Del Norte Point. One big difference, for example, is McFarland Costa owns the land for Del Norte Point. The other property for the Northcrest location is actually, we have learned in recent weeks, still owned by John Deal. The developers don't even own that site yet. So there's, to me, as far as how far along this project
What
is.
happened, because we were under the, well, maybe not you guys, but I was under the impression that they bought that property.
You know, I
They
can't-
may have had an option which gave them control, but they never actually closed that deal. That's possible.
I'd like to put that on our next agenda so we can discuss it, but I don't want to take time tonight. So when you say we can take care of the loan for this project, what loan are you referring to?
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that we're asking the council tonight. McFarland Costa Housing is not asking for any kind of a grant of funds. They are asking for a loan that will be repaid over time with interest through the cash flows on the project, which is really nice because it means you're not saying goodbye forever to those funds. You're having them paid back over time with a small rate of interest. And there would be no grant of money to the project. The only form of assistance would be in the form of a loan. And that's pretty common on some of these affordable housing projects. There are situations where the agency may grant the funds, just an outright grant, but very often it's one of these long-term loans. I'm proposing, even though I want to make it clear, we're not asking you to approve the specific terms of a loan tonight. We're basically asking you to agree to an amount. The terms of the specific loan would come back to you at a later time and would, of course, be reviewed by Mr. Black, Iris Yang, the entire legal team. But it is a loan rather than a grant.
So do you feel comfortable moving forward without the terms of a loan decided?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty typical that cities give us loans, without terms specified, but, usually it's something like a 3% simple interest over 30 or 55 years. So, I guess I'm under the assumption it's not going to be a fixed hard payment, and that's the only thing that doesn't work for us because that changes the financial structure, so.
And what does that mean, Mr. Butler?
Well, it means that they would have the obligation to pay back the amount within the time frame of the loan, but it wouldn't necessarily be, we give them a mortgage coupon booklet and they pay us for 30 years an exact amount every month.
Right. It would be a percentage of cash flow based on the actual cash that's coming in. And, I should also mention that some of these other financing sources, we may have to pay them something too. So, typically how it works is the developer, we get 50% of the cash flow for, developing the project, and then the other agencies get 50% of the cash flow. That's typical. So.
Okay. I'm a little worried about that, in that this company has changed hands 3 times since 2000. And so what kind of guarantee, we just put a lien on the property, or?
Yeah, well, that's why the specifics of the loan documents are going to be crucial, and we just weren't at a point to have that ready for you tonight. We're not at a point in the project where that level of detail needs to be done yet. There's no way I would recommend that the board approve it at this point without having, again, Mr. Young and Iris Yang from the redevelopment legal side giving them their buy-off. I think what we really need tonight for the home grant application is a public statement on the record of the agency board that you're comfortable with a loan in that amount. And what I'm saying is I think that we can easily make a commitment at the $500,000 level, especially knowing that it is a loan that will be paid back over time.
Where is that? I don't see any documentation for a $500,000 loan.
It's in the staff report
I didn't
as
see
a
that.
recommendation.
It's like page 3.
Yeah, it's recommendation number 2 on the kind of the executive summary there. And then I talk about, I think Ms. Westfall was right, page 3, that middle paragraph.
I guess maybe I didn't get the staff report.
Oh.
Well, she's looking, you indicated
get
that the
it.
tax credit was
That's why
a
I'm
huge part
confused.
of the application, so how does that work exactly? We would indicate in the agreement that we're granting a tax credit for the entire properties?
Yeah, actually, the tax credit process is a separate process that the developer applies for through the, is it Tax Credit Advisory Commission?
Tax Credit Allocation
Commission, TCAC. That application process will be going forward in March of 2011.
Okay.
What I'm recommending, and I made this number 3 on my list of recommendations, is that you make it clear tonight that any funding commitment that you make, which would be the $500,000, would only be tied to this specific income tax credit application cycle, which is the March 2011 cycle. The reason for that is I don't want this situation we've had, which the mayor alluded to earlier, where we have these developers come into town, make proposals, sometimes the projects happen, sometimes they don't. In our case, most of the time they haven't happened.
Well, we haven't had any
Yeah,
happen.
and then we're kind of left wondering, is that money, is our housing set-aside money somehow obligated to this project forevermore?
Right.
And so I want to make it clear, from now on, as long as I'm around, when a developer makes a proposal like this, we'll be clear about this commitment is only made in regard to this specific application cycle. And that way, if they don't get it, let's hope they do, and then we know things are clear. But if they don't, Tara would have to come back down the road and say, we want to do this, we're going to apply again, we'd like you to make that funding commitment again.
Okay. I'm comfortable with that. I did not get a staff report, so I apologize. I didn't have.
Okay, I just wasn't clear about that in the number 3, that it was just for the cycle for that one year. Okay.
Perhaps I could just ask that maybe we be granted 2 rounds, because usually March and July are really close together, just to give us, because there's 2 rounds a year, so that'd give us 1 year to try to get the credits.
I actually thought about that as well. We'll let the agency board make the call, but I would be, from the staff perspective, I would be open to that.
Okay, thanks.
I'm in complete favor of this. I've been following this for all these years, having been on the planning commission before I got on the council. So, and I do know how much we need low-income housing. So, it looks like a great project, well thought out. I do like the idea of having the clubhouse, as you call it, and the 24-hour, it looks like, property managers. And I don't know if you know about our crime-free multi-housing project that we have with the chief, but we have that, which would be a perfect fit, it sounds like.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, we do like to participate in Neighborhood Watch, and we've had also opened up our clubhouse to police officers and things like that in other communities.
So that
Can we make that a condition of the loan?
I don't see why not. That this project would participate
I mean,
fully.
we'd want to fully educate her first, but
Yeah.
Yeah. What am I signing up for?
If I may say, in 2003, that was one of the stipulations originally.
Mr. Plack, could you at least come to this microphone so I don't get in
one of
trouble
the
by my
original
clerk?
stipulations.
Okay. In 2003, that agreement was made at that time, the agreement with the council, that for them to come in, they needed to be part of the crime-free multi-housing program. And I would also like to have the police department involved with that, since we've expanded that program to First 5 at Del Norte and now the Boys and Girls Club. So whatever seminars you plan to put on, any programs, things of that nature. It's not a location for officers to hang out there. It's a location for actually a partnership, and that was one of the stipulations in 2003 for it to go forward, to be part of the program.
Great.
That would
We're
be
definitely
great.
in favor of that.
Thank you.
It's so successful here.
That's great. Yeah, and of course, we also like to try to partner with other organizations in the area if anyone wants to provide services for our, residents.
Yeah, and just so you know, right across the street from your property is First 5.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Which is the organization for children 0 to 5, and they have partnered with our multifamily units and provided the computers.
Oh, that's great.
And they've even went in and helped build a center for the kids.
Oh, that's great.
So,
Yeah.
Well, if you're willing to go on the record to say you would like to participate in that program, then I'm comfortable with that for now.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just going back to a point you mentioned earlier about, not having terms defined for this loan. Typically, what cities do is they issue a resolution that says, yes, we'll give you $500,000, we'll work out the terms later. And then once we get the tax credits, there would actually be a document called like an affordable housing agreement or a disposition development agreement, and we would hammer out all the terms. And, you can put some other conditions, not too many, hopefully, but, we can really negotiate and work out all the terms, and it will spell everything out really clearly.
Great.
Tara, this looks like a wonderful development. I'm so excited about it. I do have a few questions. One for Rod. The housing set-aside fund adds approximately $150,000 to $200,000 in new revenue each year. I was asked, where does this money come from?
This is from the redevelopment agency state law, state redevelopment law, requires every redevelopment agency to set aside, which is what that term comes from.
20%.
Yeah, 20% of the tax increment revenue. And it actually works out very easily for us. The nice round numbers in Crescent City. We generate about $1 million in tax increment revenue in both of our project areas combined. So you take 20% of that, about $200,000. Now, with the way property values have been either flat or declining a little bit the last few years, we're down to a point now where it's between $150,000 and $200,000. That's new money coming in each year. Has to be used either to build new affordable housing, rehabilitate existing affordable housing. The mayor has talked about, for example, down payment assistance programs for people that are buying housing. So there's a variety of things that you can do about it. And as we go forward in the next couple of months with all this analysis on our redevelopment agency, the board will be hearing more about all the different options that are available for this funding. But this kind of a project is certainly one of the main types of great projects you can do with this set-aside funding.
This is a priority with our funds, really. It really is.
Will HUD-approved families be able to go into these apartments?
I'll let Tara answer, but I believe yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think maybe you mean Section 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do accept Section 8 vouchers, yes.
Okay. Now, on the low-income apartments behind Walmart, there were 81 units, and they paid for 68 hookups. This is 73 units. How many hookups will they be paying for?
actually, I anticipated a Donna Westfall question on that.
would.
Yeah. And McFarland Costa, which was probably Simpson at that point, they paid for all their hookups back in 2003 or 4.
No kidding.
And yeah, they paid for 73. And
Yeah, we paid about $600,000 in fees to date.
yeah, and they were smart enough to buy before the rate increases went in. So
Do we get to lock those in?
yeah, it sounds like you paid for your well, we
They
confirmed
did,
that they
yeah.
did pay for their sewer hookups.
Well, that brings up an interesting question and opportunity, I hope, is that where does the money go from the hookup fees, Rod?
Into the sewer enterprise fund.
Sewer enterprise fund.
And so they already prepaid. Does that money go towards, will that money go towards paying down the state revolving loan fund?
Well, it has gone into the enterprise fund. So those it's hard to trace exactly. I mean, this was like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
when
Well,
this was
there's
paid,
still
so-
going to be all the work to be done to put in all of those hookups.
Right, I understand that.
So-
You know, there's just been this issue about how much of the developer's fees paid for hookups are going to be allocated towards paying down the loan. Yeah, it's been a big issue. So I just wanted to know, will all of those monies be earmarked towards paying down the loan?
No. To
No.
answer that question directly, no, because we don't earmark developer fees for specific expenditures as they come in. They go into the fund each year as a revenue, and they could be used for capital improvements in the system, which would include the collection part of the system. Some of those funds could go toward the payoff of the loan over time once we start having to make payments on the loan.
Well, isn't there an issue about the expansion component of the sewer plant and how much of that expansion should be paid for by development fees, hookup fees?
You know what, I'm going to have you refer your questions to Rod because it doesn't, Tara's,
Okay.
she's paid her fee. We don't need to go off into a sewer discussion at this point. And so I'm going to bring it back to, do you have any other specific questions about her project?
I just wanted to get a condition of the loan, that's all, so we knew if those fees were going to be used
Yeah.
for repaying the SRF loan.
Oh, I see what you mean.
That's-
No, I think when they've already,
Yeah,
in a case like
that's
this,
not-
when they've already paid,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think that we have no further questions for you.
Okay, great.
Thank you for
so
being here
much.
tonight.
Appreciate it.
Mayor,
Excuse me.
I have a couple comments about the project.
Oh, okay.
For clarification, I just reviewed the drawings, and it looks like the height is 36 feet.
Okay, thank you.
I think the project is good for the city, and obviously we need low and moderate income housing. If I remember, our housing authority was saying there's 300 on the waiting list plus. So certainly we have the need. I'm happy to say that I've reviewed the plan documents that were provided by the staff report. I happen to personally know the architect from San Diego in my other life who's done this project, and the master plan is a thorough master plan, and the buildings are actually, is an award-winning architect, so he's put care into the buildings. Although they're 3 stories, he's broken up the massing with the changing of materials, so I think they'll be friendly buildings. And also I think it's a good investment in our city, particularly in these recessionary times that we're in. And I think it's also important that we have to grow our RDA, where we invest in it and then we get return payment and earnings, and then we take that and reinvest it again. So I think it's a good project for the city.
Yeah, I've been excited about this project for several years. And, you know, they took their permits out and then they lapsed, and then they, took their permits out and then they lapsed, and we never heard from them. And then we had this new project on Northcrest Drive, and they came and they got approval from us to go out and get tax credits, and then they disappeared. And so we've continued to have this lack of participation and kind of a void of information. And so this was kind of part of the discussion, that we kind of gave Rod direction, to figure out what's going on with these projects, because we want them to move forward. We want them to be a part of our community, and we want them to serve our low-income families, because we have a huge need. And the second part of that discussion will, as we move forward, will be educating this council about the RDA in general, having that financial analysis, and then moving forward with some other projects too. And hopefully we can start helping some small business owners and maybe some first-time home buyers, and providing some real assistance with this money that's just sitting there without any definition. So I'm excited about it. And I will, at this point, take public comment. Okay, seeing none, we will bring it back to the council for a motion.
I would move to approve resolution number 2010-20, I guess with the stipulation that the commitment is tied to the March and or July 2011 tax cycle, and that it also includes the crime-free multi-housing element.
Oh, excuse me.
I have a motion by Mr. Slur and a second by Ms. Westfall. Could you please poll the vote?
Director Westfall?
Absolutely, yes.
Director Murray?
Yes.
Director Slurt?
Yes.
And Chair Shalom?
Yes, thank you.
That was new.
Tara, thank you. Congratulations, and we look forward to getting this project built.
Don't we authorize 500,000? Is that included?
It's the resolution, which I did believe the resolution includes the 500,000, doesn't it, Rod?
Yes. Oh, the resolution? No, it was one of my recommendations. Let's see if it actually, I don't think it's actually in the resolution itself.
It's not in the resolution.
But if we have the council, the agency board on record as supporting the $500,000 loan.
Yeah, because we don't have an actual document to approve, but we're giving direction to move forward with that action.
That amount, that commitment.
You don't have to have a specific directive?
No, not in this.
I don't think so. I think we're giving him direction to bring that document back to us for approval.
Just want to make sure we have all of our T's crossed.
Yeah, that's good.
I's dotted.
Yeah, I think the terms of the $500,000 loan it all needs to be documented and negotiated.
Correct.
But I think there are some fairly standard templates for how to accomplish that.
Great, thank you. Okay, we're going to adjourn the redevelopment agency meeting and reconvene as the city council in our third hat. We have some reports this evening. First of all, from Gina Zatola, Executive Director for the Chamber of Commerce. And before you start speaking, Ms. Zatola, I just want to thank you. 4th of July was a fabulous event, and I know firsthand that you did most of the work and handled all of the organization of the event, and just want to just commend you. It was a beautiful day, little windy, but I think record crowds.
Yep, it was really good.
I would echo those sentiments.
Ditto.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here this evening. Well, since we're on that topic, I want to give you a little update. I think most of you know, I know I've been in contact with Rod. I'm trying to, especially on these busy weekends, pull the hotels and find out what their occupancy is. And so the good news for this evening is I did about 10 hotels in the city limits. And for Friday, we had about 3 out of the 10 that were completely full, and the rest were at least 80% or more full. On Saturday, July 3rd, we had 8 out of the 10 that were completely full. And on Sunday, we had 9 out of 10 that were completely full. And the last one was full. They had a reservation and they didn't show up. So that was only one
99.9%.
99.9%. So for the entire weekend, the average was probably around, I would say, 93% full. So that's
great.
pretty good. So I was really pleased about that. Deck party. I think we had some really big numbers at the deck party, estimating over 1,000 people attended. I went through over 1,000 armbands, so it was quite a big crowd. We did have security this year, and there were no instances, so it was really good, and a great crowd, and really good, what I hear, really good drinks too. Didn't have any of those though. It also brings me to my next point. I want to thank the city not only for your continued support, but also I want to thank Rod and the staff. Did an absolutely outstanding job assisting and being there for me and making sure we were getting everything done, and it was really a team effort. So I want to thank you, and I'd like you to trickle that down to your staff and everybody that was involved. I'd also like to take this time to
Except for those garbage cans.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say,
except
I know
for the garbage
Yeah,
cans.
I know we still have issues with
We
garbage.
have a wrap-up meeting
Yeah,
going on. We'll
I wanna-
talk about
I
that.
want to make sure that we sit down before Sea Cruise.
Yes.
Because I want to make sure we get that figured
Yeah.
out. I think what I'm communicating to our staff somehow isn't, or maybe what you're envisioning as a lot of cans is different from what they envision, but we'll
Right.
get it figured out.
We'll get it figured out. We definitely need more trash cans, and we'll find the happy medium. And last year we needed more, and this year we needed more, and hopefully we're going to need even more next year when we increase it. So it shows in our crowds. Also want to thank Chief Plack and his crew, and also the Explorers who did a fabulous job of being there. They're there for us every year. They're there for Sea Cruise. They're there for 4th of July, and I just can't commend them enough. They're a huge asset and a huge help to this organization and to all of us as team members to make sure we pull off a great event for the entire community. I was talking with Chief the day of the event. We were walking around, and I couldn't look at the crowd and come up with an estimation. Is there 10,000? Is there 15,000 people? And he estimated there's probably anywhere between 20 and 30,000 people down at Beachfront Park. So I think it was a success.
That's a little high. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think if you had 30,000 people in that park, you wouldn't be able to turn around.
Well, I couldn't turn around, but I was just tired, so I was too tired. But anyway, it was a great day, and it worked out really well, and the fireworks were spectacular. So again, thank you to all of you for your continued support of all the events we do and all the support we get from the city staff and stuff. It really helps.
The fireworks were wonderful. It
They
was so
were
nice to
great.
see them.
I know. And that was it. We had the wind. The wind kept everything out, all the fog, and so it was clear. It was a little windy. I was a little chafed
I
that
was
day
too.
after the whole day being out there from 6 a.m., but it was well worth it.
I told every tourist that said, "Oh my gosh, this wind," and I said, "You'll appreciate it at 9:30
Right,
tonight."
right. So it was really good. I want to give you some stats for the visitor center. I found some of the numbers to be really rather disappointing, but I also believe it's really the state of the economy that we're seeing for April. This is the physical count, people walking through doors getting information, was down almost 2%. May, we were down 20%, and in June, we were down 12%. So again, I think it's the state of the economy, and quite possibly we have a lot of new volunteers. I'm always reminding them, make sure you click the little clicker so we count everybody. But there could be one or two missed, but we are still down. And from the people I'm talking to, whether it's in Humboldt County or Grants Pass, it's something we're seeing across the board. It's not just Crescent City and Del Norte County.
That's the first time I've heard you report down numbers for a long time.
Well, yeah, we haven't. I was even shocked again when I saw them, and I had to go back and check, and I talked to even Tamara and said, what's your stats say, and what have you been hearing as far as tourism goes? And it's pretty much across the board, it's down. Now, I was expecting it to be even a little bit worse than it was, just because I see the people coming in. When I come out, I'm thinking there should be more people coming through the doors, and it seemed like it was a little bit thinner this year. But I'm not seeing as many people coming maybe from foreign countries. There is people coming from Germany, but I'm not seeing as many this year. I'm not seeing as many writing down their information. We ask everybody to write down and say that they came in and where they're from. But I'm seeing a lot of people from Washington, from Sonoma, just from California, Southern Cal. So they are doing sort of the stay in the state or close by staycations nearby.
Well, and I think that this entire region is promoting that too.
We are. Absolutely.
And a lot of people aren't going on the big trips, but they're, traveling nearby.
Right, driving to where they can go. We had a lot of phone calls this last month. I guess it's from the Beat the Heat campaign that the Visitors Bureau was doing. We had so many phone calls from people seeing the ad in Reading when it was 108, 110, and can you send us some packets? We're interested in coming out. So it's nice to know that those are getting seen, and that is actually coming to fruition and is happening. People are seeing those ads, and there's a direct result, which is us getting the phone calls and asking for information, and we saw it in the newspaper. So that's good. That was good. I thought that was great for me to hear that. So as far as information packets, again, we know that there's been a lot of advertising going on. So for April, we're up 419%, which is a total of 504 visitor packets mailed out. May, we mailed out 318, which is up 341%. And in June, we mailed out 176, which is up about 180. So they're definitely keeping, all the volunteers and the staff out front are keeping busy, trying to keep up with the requests for information that's coming in, whether it's through the website, whether it's through the toll-free number.
Have you been able yet to put that visitor's packet into a PDF form that you can email and save on the...
But we're talking about that. Tam was very big on trying to sort of help erase the carbon footprint. And I know that, Charles, in meetings that we've had, she would like to eventually go to, if someone really wants something, they need to go to their website and print it out versus having all this stuff going out all the time. You still get a lot of people, though, that, especially retirees, that would rather have that information in their hand, whether they forget it or not, and they have to come back in the visitor center. They want something physical they can hold on to, and some of them just aren't computer literate yet to get to that stage. But it is something that's been talked about.
Look at the trends, because when I was doing some research in the last couple years, the biggest online market that was growing was retired people.
That's interesting. I know I'm never going to get my mom and dad on a computer, but you know that.
Yeah.
It's hard to get them on the cell phone. But that's something I know the Visitors Bureau, I don't want to speak for Tamara, of course, but I know that's something that she has talked about and has ideas in how to try to move that forward.
Well, anytime that you actually purchase a map, like 500,000 copies or whatever it is, you can ask them to provide it in a PDF.
Yes.
And then that just goes right on your website, and they can just download it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
it's good thought.
any other questions from the council?
Questions?
Excellent.
Thank you.
Great.
I actually have one more thing, sorry,
Sure.
I forgot. I'd like to invite you all to I'm putting on a different hat right now. I'm putting on my physician recruitment and retention hat. And I'd like to invite you all to a welcome reception for Dr. Michael Noonan, who is a DO at Open Door Community Health, and Dr. Nikki Schwartz, who is family practice at Crescent City Family Medicine, on August 19th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Hampton Inn. And we'd love it if you could all make it.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And bug me about a card. Gina has been very nice to ask the city. We do a nice welcome card for all the new doctors, and she puts together a beautiful basket of things from our local area, and then some nice welcome cards from people from the city and the county to welcome our new doctors, and I think that's very nice. So thank you. Okay, next we have Mr. Renfro to give this board an update on the Tri-Agency Economic Development Annual Report.
Good evening. Do we think we can pull that PDF up?
Pull it what?
There's a slide presentation that's in your packet, but
yeah,
it was so that the public can sort of follow along. Good evening. I'm Bill Renfro, Executive Director for the Tri-Agency Economic Development Authority. Thank you. Part of the agreement between the city and the county and the Harbor District is that there is an annual report. Actually, there's a report every 6 months, and this is the closing report for fiscal year 2009-2010. The city signed the agreement most recently in October 2008, and these are the 6 components that are required to be in the report. The full report was in your briefing package, I believe, and so what I'd like to do this evening is just kind of summarize it for you. Excuse me. The report itself is based on the annual action plan. The annual action plan, in turn, was based on the community economic development strategy, as well as a retreat done by the Tri-Agency Board of Directors and interested parties. From that, we came out with the 2009-2010 action plan that contained 12 items that basically provided me guidance and focus through last fiscal year on where I should put my efforts. We have developed a similar plan for 2010-2011, and that was approved in the June Tri-Agency Economic Development Authority board meeting.
And just for the record, Mr. Slurt and I both sit on that board.
The next slide basically is to try to do this in less than 90 seconds, but the numbers down the side are the task items, the descriptions are there, so I'll go through these really quickly. We did develop a Tri-Agency Economic Development Authority website that was up and running by it was up and running by February. The last major overhaul was in November of last year, and we are now loading in the meeting minutes and agendas onto that website. We did develop a list of priority projects and have been working to get some funding for those. We did apply for funds for the airport as well as Hambro Forest Products. Both of those grants were not awarded. We're still waiting. I did help participate in the North Coast Marine Mammal Center grant application, and we're waiting for that one to see, keep our fingers crossed. We were going to hold a youth fair, and that kind of morphed over into a business and career fair. We did hold that on May the 22nd with over 200 people showing up. We had 27 businesses represented. We were working on this concept of one-stop business proposal. We actually put together a formal written proposal, presented it to my board on December 31st of last year. The missing component there, of course, is money and funding for that. Other than that, it's pretty much ready to go. So we're looking on funding in this fiscal year. I do attend several professional organizations, such as the California Economic Development Council, or Upstate California Economic Development Council, and the California Association of Local Economic Developers. We are looking for additional sources of funding. I'm in discussions with CalBiz, with the state treasury people, the USDA Rural Economic Development Program, CDBG. So we're looking around out there to see what kind of monies we can bring into the community for economic development. That's an ongoing thing. We're working with some of the other economic development entities in the county, including the tribes and the Board of Realtors, Rotary, and other folks interested in economic development. The Microenterprise Financial Assistance Program has moved along famously. We've created 3 new businesses, which represents 3.5 new FTEs, as well as we've provided some monies to existing businesses that has allowed us to retain 5 full-time equivalent positions. Sorry, I wasn't keeping up. We actively recruit new businesses into the community. Matter of fact, we sometimes get leads from council members, like Ms. Westfall gave us a lead that we're still working on, so thank you very much. That hasn't gone cold. It's a still maybe, so that's always good. We've tried to energize the community by bringing some new ideas and new events into the community. I mentioned the Business and Career Expo. We also held the Crab, Wine, and Cheese Festival, and that, too, was very successful. We did complete a lands inventory. This is intended to allow people to go onto our website and look at what lands are available for commercial and business development. Unfortunately, we're having some software problems on the application that was created in, and it's not user-friendly yet, so we're still working on that. And then lastly, we entered into an agreement with the Harbor District to provide some business development assistance, and recently we've closed out that memorandum of understanding with the Harbor District. So that was sort of last year's tasks and what we had planned, and we got most of them completed. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Renfro?
I've got a couple. It seems to me that the software problem is problematic. And it's unfortunate we've done the work to get this information and we can't get it up and out there to the public. So it seems to me that I would hope that would be a priority because the county put a lot of work together identifying various properties available in the city, and then to have that basically ready to launch, and we've got a glitch.
Do you know what the details of that are?
The details is that the county prepared it in a software package that's no longer commercially available. They happen to have a copy of this software, and that's what they built it in, and we're not having success converting it over to a package, a software that you can buy today.
What did they do it in?
They did it in Access 98, and we've talked with Microsoft and some other folks. We've done a couple of conversions, but it all comes up garbled up. And so the simple solution would be to simply have someone sit down and do data entry from the old format into the format that we were trying to achieve. But yeah, it's time.
Have you maybe sat and chatted with maybe our IT director to see if he had any suggestions or?
No, I haven't spoken with the city's IT people. I've been mostly working with the county's people, trying to getting them.
We have a great IT guy. I'd run it by him and see if he had any suggestions.
That's a great idea.
His name
Thank
is Fritz Ludeman.
I have spoken with Mr. Ludeman.
Yeah, just a suggestion. I have one.
Yes.
Tell us about Frontier.
About what?
Frontier.
Frontier?
Yes.
The telecommunications company?
Yes.
Frontier just recently purchased Verizon. So if you used to get a Verizon bill, you won't get any more Verizon bills, you'll get a Frontier bill. Frontier, in part of that deal, has essentially bought dark fiber all the way up to the town of O'Brien, Oregon. And Frontier, it's my understanding, has a handshake agreement with Charter to close that gap up 199. Now, again, that's sort of a...
Yeah.
That's the goal. We don't have a timeline. We don't have the details on it, kind of like the...
Well, I thought it was interesting. I got the letter from Frontier today in the mail, and it says, welcome, we're your new provider, but it doesn't say, unless you were in the know and understood, it doesn't say anything about, we have bought Verizon, we're replacing your Verizon service, this is what we're going to charge you, nothing. It's just like, welcome, you're our new customer.
They actually bought, there was a big horse trade that went on in the telecommunications industry in the last probably 90 days, and they did a big shuffle. Well, I'll give you Boardwalk for Park Place, and they just did this big thing nationally, not just out here. And actually, I think the dust has yet to settle from all that. So I don't know what other pieces they bought out in our neck of the woods.
Next question, I'm just curious if you have any inside information. At my work, at the radio station, we were told that Charter is no longer going to provide business email accounts. So, like, for instance, kpod@charter.net is no longer going to exist.
Yes, that's just my understanding, that Charter has asked all of their business clients to create their own domain name, and so it would be KPOD, or it'd be kpod@kpod.net. So you would no longer have the Charter piece in there. But in order to do that, you have to go out on your own and register that
and
domain name.
we have other emails available through our company, but I'm just curious, what does that mean for their company? If they're going to get rid of business accounts, are residents next? And I mean, it just makes me worry a little bit.
I would suggest we bring in our resident telecommunication expert, John Irwin, to try to fathom that. I don't have a good answer for you.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Mayor, could I
Sure.
just add something anecdotal about Frontier? I was at a wedding in Ferndale a week ago, and it happened that I was sitting next to a Frontier lineman who was from another Frontier territory, and he told me, he said, we just bought you guys up there, and the one thing I know is that you're going to get some exciting new services because Frontier's philosophy is to push DSL into every area they can.
Well, yeah, the letter said, high-speed internet, telephone, and satellite TV.
Yeah. So that he was basically saying, he also said you're going to get all the new territories, which are numerous, not just us, but they're going to get all the Frontier capital investment for a while. So it could be good.
That is my understanding, and as we know, theoretically, that competition should improve our existing service as well. So that's what we hope.
Bill, I sit in as the alternate on your tri-agency board, but I can't remember what your mission statement is.
The mission statement is basically to recruit new businesses into the community and to help existing businesses to retain and expand their businesses. That's sort of the...
Well, actually, the entire mission of Tri-Agency is has199.com. That's basically what it was founded. As it morphed, it continued to envelop that concept. Now, the Tri-Agency has kind of taken that, and we've started to make so much progress on has199.com. The board has directed Mr. Renfro to really concentrate on keeping and recruiting, retention and recruitment of business as well as part of their mission.
Again, the mission is that the Tri-Agency represents the economic development interests of the city, the county, and the Harbor District with a focus on business retention and recruitment.
So, any other questions for Bill?
Nope.
I had one follow-up. Do we have a link yet to the county and to the Visitor Bureau or Explore Del Norte for the Tri-Agency website?
I will have to check. We forward links up on a regular basis. I'll see if that links. The chamber link is there, I'm sure. I don't know, which oftentimes will kick you right over to the Del Norte site, but I will check. It's a separate link.
Right.
I have a little lead for you.
And I'll add those if they're not on there.
Sure.
Mr. Renfro, thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Your role is very important in the community, and we appreciate the update for the entire council. Is there any public comment on either report we've just had? Okay, we're going to move forward to public comment in general. Any member of the audience is invited to address our council on any matter within our jurisdiction. Comments of public interest or on matters appearing on the agenda are accepted. However, please note that we cannot participate in discussion on non-agendized items, but they can be referred for future agendas. After receiving recognition from myself, when you come to the microphone, please state your full name. Just let us know if you live in the county or the city for the record, and limit your time to 3 minutes. Sir. How are you this evening? How are you this evening?
I'd rather not say. I'm getting there, the doctor tells me.
Good.
But he even won't tell me where.
It's good to see you. I haven't seen you for a while.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
I wish my wife would say that. My name is Fred Cox, Frederick Lee Cox. I live in Del Norte County, off of Prince Road. I've been a resident for 35 plus years. I've been retired for 20 some years. And I think, let me start what I want to get to off this way. I love Del Norte County so much, and I think so much of it. I've made this my home. I've got a child with 3 children. She tells me they're my grandchildren, but especially on birthdays. So I have an investment in this county, in this city. I love it. I think it's the most beautiful town I've ever served in. I'm retired out of the military, and I've been in a lot of cities. I've been in a lot of towns, and I think it's about the best and made it my home. Unfortunately, I find that I must be here tonight. I wrote a letter last month to the council about this panhandling deal, but on the same day you had your meeting, I had a date with the doctor up in Portland and could not make it. And I was downtown this evening, when I heard that there was going to be a meeting, so if you'd excuse my appearance. I'm not one of the panhandlers, but we do have a problem at the beachfront park. Beautiful park. My grandkids play there. I go down there myself. The veterans have an interest in the area around the S-curve of the park, and our panhandlers, I feel, affect the tourist trade. If you were a tourist and you went down to a beautiful park, would you want these people walking around with a sign? I understand, after speaking with the chief of police, the sheriff's department, the CHP, and I even went to the county road department, because I feel the panhandling, especially in the area of the S-curve, as a traffic, could create an accident. You're standing there, somebody's going by in a car, and they're trying to read your sign. Next thing you know, city's being sued. Possible. I inadvertently, from friends of mine that are veterans, I'm speaking for them as well. This is also the site that was chosen, thanks to the good gracious of this committee, for the Veterans Monument. It's been in the works for a few years now, and it's still being worked on. If you wish to attend a meeting this coming Wednesday at 10 a.m., there will be a meeting about the monument. If you can understand that with the overwhelming cooperation that we've had from the city in giving us this spot to put the monument once funds are raised and all. To us veterans, that it's an honored grounds. It's almost like holy grounds to us. You'd almost have to be a vet or be a vet to understand how we feel about this. There's an individual that stands there. Not only have I, but several other veterans have spoken with him. He goes anywhere from ballistic to just plain out ignoring you like he did me. The guys asked me to check this out. Police chief says that there's nothing that can be done to move this individual because he has as much right to stand there and panhandle as I do to speak to the committee tonight. I've also been to the sheriff's department, and everybody says that, there's nothing we can do. I'm here tonight to ask the council if some sort of ordinance could be drawn up from a legal point that there would be absolutely no panhandling of any kind, verbal or with signs, in the entire area of the park.
Fred,
speaking as a grandfather, I would not want this kind of person in the park when my grandchildren are down there playing, and I feel that a lot of other residents that live here would feel the same way.
I'm going to ask you to wrap up because I've let you, I had the light turned off so you could finish speaking. So I've given you more than your 3 minutes, but I just wanted to let you know that we do have an ordinance on file for panhandling. However, there are very strict laws that we have to follow in reference to that ordinance. Otherwise, it would become, unenforceable because we are not allowed to take someone's free speech rights away. However, we do have an ordinance that just got passed here a few months ago, and the ordinance is it's being acted on, and we have seen a decrease in some of the panhandling in the city limits, and I'm going to refer to the chief on the actual legality of that certain person. I don't think that we can control his right to what is considered free speech under the ordinance. However, being right there at the intersection might be a way that we can address the issue. If the person is violent, we can address it that way. And and I would ask that you not approach that person personally for your own safety, but instead to call 911.
Well, here we go. I feel that I should have a right as a grandfather that my grandchildren should be able to go down there and play without any concern that they're going to be around this type of person or this person's going to be around my grandchildren or my daughter. I also feel that I should have a right. I served my country for over 24 years, and I earned my retirement pay, every penny of it. And you men that are and women that are sitting in here today, you're doing the same thing that I did, or you're working towards it. You're working to earn your money. Even when I was in the service, I had a budget, and I lived by that budget, and I have a budget still today. And I live by that budget, and it does not include having to deal with panhandling. I feel I'm very emotional about our area that you people, this committee gave us to build our monument when it comes about. That's hallowed ground to us. There are no sidewalks around that area. That entire park. This is not only my view and with the strongest feelings as I have about it, but it's the view of many people out there that do not want to take the time to come and speak with you tonight, or this room would not be big enough to hold all of them. I have just as much right to peace of mind that somebody is not going to hit me going through that S-curve trying to read somebody's sign. I have the right to the peace of mind again, but my family can enjoy that park.
Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to stop now because I've given you about 6 or 7 minutes, but I am going to ask Mr. Plack to come forward and we're going to ask him a simple question.
We cannot come up with an ordinance.
We have an ordinance. And I'm going to have Mr. Platt give you a copy of that, Fred, so you have it in hand. But could you please address that particular intersection and how our ordinance applies?
The only thing that individual needs to do is be 10 feet away from the intersection itself to not create a hazard. That is it. Unless you wanted to make an amendment and saying that the parks are now off limits for panhandling, and we can place that stipulation in there, but they can still go ahead and do that between the hours of sunrise to sunset. It doesn't eliminate it all at once.
Isn't it a safety issue, though, right there on the freeway?
Excuse me?
Isn't it a safety issue?
It could be. It could be. So therefore, Caltrans would probably be the ones that whether or not they want to enforce that is there. But
I don't know who he's referring to, but I've seen somebody right there, and they're like right there on the corner. They're not 10 feet back.
He needs to be 10 feet back.
Okay.
So could we
And so if he's not 10 feet back, then we can issue him citations on that. As a matter of fact, that individual does work as well. But, that has been an issue on that as well, sure.
So couldn't we just have a little talk with him and say this is a safety issue? And
we have. It's past that right now.
And what was his response?
Non-compliance.
What?
Non-compliant. As far as that's concerned. So therefore, we can certainly go ahead, and if he is right there on the corner, we can certainly issue citations for that, because that's what the ordinance says.
Okay. So I think we can make some progress for you. And Mr. Plack, if you'd stop by his office tomorrow, he can give you a copy of the ordinance, so you have that information. And, pardon me?
I do not have that.
No, I'm saying if you could stop by his office tomorrow, he'll give you a copy of the ordinance. Sure. Absolutely. And the PD will work towards solving this issue for you.
I applaud Chief Black for what he has done to cut back on the panhandling in the city limits and all, but we still have a lot of work to do.
All starts somewhere. Thank you for being here tonight, Fred.
Thank you for listening to me.
You're welcome. Take care of yourself.
My wife will.
Okay. Is there any other general public comment? Okay, seeing none, we're going to close public comment and move on to new business. We have an update on our cooperative process between the city and the county and the harbor to provide collection services to the Harbor District. Mr. Butler?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, the mayor requested an update. You'll recall that on June 21st, at your regular meeting, we provided the last update on this project. And there have been at least 6 things that I can tell you have happened in the, what has that been now? 4 weeks since then. One is that in the immediate aftermath of that council meeting, Jim Barnes and I believe Mr. Weir went and met with the county staff, county CSA staff, and that meeting included Supervisors Hemmingson and Finnegan. You'll recall one of the issues last time was that the county staff was aware of the plan that Mr. Weir put together, but it had not gone to the Board of Supervisors level at that point. So this was the first chance for 2 members of the Board of Supervisors to hear how that plan would flow in terms of the CSA's involvement in financing and participating in the improvements. And again, we're talking about some improvements to the Elk Valley Lift Station, so the CSA collection system, some improvements at the harbor in the area of the seafood treatment plant, and then some extension of line, extension of the existing line over in the area near the new wastewater treatment plant. So it's kind of a 3-part process. Shortly after that, and by the way, the supervisors and the county staff at that meeting indicated their strong support and willingness to be involved. Later that same week, there was a meeting between city staff and some key players from the harbor. It was Jim Barnes, me, I believe Eric, we were at that one as well, Ernie Perry, and Rich Young. And that was a very productive meeting in that we talked about not just the issue of seafood wastewater processing, but the bigger picture issue of, as the harbor changes, grows, develops over time, what capacity is the harbor going to need in its wastewater services? So that's one healthy thing that I think has come out of all this, is the focus is no longer just on Albert Seafood or this particular seafood plant, but the larger question of how do we make the whole system stronger, and how do we make sure that there's adequate capacity for the Birch Ocean View area, Oak Valley Casino, possibly if that development happens down the road, and then specifically seafood processing, not just Mr. Albert, but possibly additional seafood processors that would come into the harbor down the road. And one significant thing that came out of that meeting with the harbor staff is that the man to my right, Mr. Bob Black, will put on his harbor hat and actually draft the agreement that will lay out all of these improvements. That is a healthy thing, I think, because the harbor really is the agency that's coming to us and asking for this service and asking to be included. I think Bob is a good candidate because of his background with the county, his background with the city, and now his role as the harbor attorney. We will have that agreement reviewed independently by Harriet Steiner or someone at McDonough, Holland, and Allen, so that we are getting a separate set of legal eyes on the agreement.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I think that's probably the best way. And of course, the county CSA, I would assume the county counsel's office will be handling the legal review from their end.
And just on that point, Mr. Black, I believe I'm speaking for the majority of the council. We would like to see that happen quickly.
Yes, understood. It's very, very close to the top of my stack. It's not yet the top item, but it's very close.
In addition to those two meetings, Mr. Barnes and I met this morning again with top county staff, Tina McClendon, Kevin Hamblin, and the gentleman who's kind of their field CSA staff person, whose name I'm blanking out on now. But Mike. At least I got, yeah.
When in doubt,
you all know
Mike.
Yeah. And the purpose of that meeting was to talk in more detail about how all of this is going to come together, the logistics of it. Are they still, basically, what do they need from us to be able to take this to their full board of supervisors? You know, they got kind of the informal Jerry Hemmingson, David Finnegan green light and blessing, but at some point they're going to need to take this to the whole county board. And I think we left that meeting with an understanding. Jim and Eric and Fritz put together an excellent colored map, you know, that even a non-engineer can look at and kind of understand what's going on. And he left that with them so that they have that available for county supervisors and county staff. It kind of lays out how it would all come together. Now, while all these meetings are going on, we're not just sitting around contemplating our navels and waiting for something to happen. Eric Weir.
Ever heard that term?
Yeah, that's a Butler classic. The engineering staff, Eric Weir, Jim Barnes. Mike Young actually has been brought in to do a couple hours of, you know, bringing the historical perspective in, so that we aren't sitting around waiting for all this legal stuff to get done, but we're not moving forward on the reality of the work that's going to have to get done, the engineering process, and, you know, how would we bid this thing out, who's going to do what, how's the money going to flow. That's all being worked on as these meetings go forward. Now, one major news item that, again, even though all this other stuff is becoming a broader project, which I think is a good thing, specifically on the Don Albert end of things, Albert Seafoods. Try not to fall out of your chairs in shock, but Don Albert was actually it was top local manager, I don't think Don was in town, but his top local manager was handed about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago the first draft of the industrial waste discharge permit. That's one of the key things they've been waiting for a while. And Mr. Barnes, along with his team, Lonnie Levi and others, have put together that draft. And that's,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's crucial because, you know, nothing can be, well, this other system improvement stuff can be done, but as far as Don, Albert, and Albert Seafood sending their waste to our plant, that can't happen unless we have an approved industrial waste discharge permit on the books. That will eventually come to the council for review and final approval. But to me, it's encouraging and significant that that is now in their hand and they're looking at it. And then the last thing that isn't specifically related to waste processing, but is related to seafood processing and the potential success of that down the road at the harbor, the council, I believe at that same meeting on June 21st, authorized us to be the front agency, more or less, for this CDBG over-the-counter grant.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were all here that evening.
Mm-hmm.
That is moving forward. We went through the request for proposals process, had one proposal, and fortunately for all of us, that proposal was from Suzanne Dockel of Eureka, who, I think you've all heard her name. She was a key person in the harbor's attempt to get CDBG funding for its interbasin rebuild and related improvements, resulted in a $5 million CDBG grant. So,
Rod, did you ever hear from Greg O'Sullivan?
Yeah, I did talk to him, in fact.
Okay.
Mike Sullivan,
Right.
Supervisor Sullivan. had
Mike
talked to him.
called me, and I was, kind of evasive because I wasn't exactly sure, but I told him that I believed that it was an open process,
Yeah.
and but I asked him to refer to you.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk to Mr. O'Sullivan, and he ultimately decided not to submit a proposal, but we did get a chance to talk, and
Okay.
I told him he was
Great.
certainly
I just
welcome.
wanted to make sure that he was addressed.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, Ms. Dockel had an emergency surgery on June 28th. I don't think it's anything life-threatening, but it was big enough deal that she was in the hospital for several days. She's been recuperating. Charlene Maisie and I are meeting with Suzanne Dockel here in Crescent City this Friday, July 23rd. And the point of that meeting is going to be to get her contract finalized and get her started on the next part of this process, which is submitting the formal application for OTC, over-the-counter funds through CDBG. So again, that's more related to the rehab of the Albert Seafood building than it is anything having to do with the wastewater part of things. But again, it's a key part of this whole process to make ourselves economically viable for whether it's Albert Seafoods or other people that may come in down the road. So that's kind of the...
That's all great news, and I'd just like to add one thing. When our ad hoc utility committee met with Elk Valley Rancheria, our staff also informed them of a little more detail in that joint, what is hopefully going to be a joint agreement for funding for this project. And the Rancheria staff was very receptive. They didn't understand it, but we were able to explain it to them a little better. We explained that it was completely, draft concept, but hoped that they would, join in the process because it would benefit their project down the road. And they were very receptive to that, and our engineering public works department's working with them to provide them with a map and make sure that they're on full board.
That's true. Yeah, in fact, I emailed Mr. Nayland and Brad Downs from the Rancheria the electronic versions of Eric's colored maps that he presented last time, so they should have that in hand.
Great. I love it when we all start working together and we can actually see, the light at the end of the tunnel. And I really appreciate the staff working diligently to move this project forward because time is of the essence.
Sure. Thank you.
We want to, create those jobs for this crab season and, retain those jobs. And I think that's very important to our community.
With respect to that, Madam Mayor, knowing how slowly sometimes the wheels of government turn, I'm happy to hear all the positive things we've heard tonight in the update. But I know that November 15th is going to be quickly approaching. And my concern is that we maintain and protect the jobs we have and or grow the jobs we have. So I'm just wondering if this is going to happen in the real world before November 15th. And you know, my guess is a lot of hard work and positive attitudes, but it may take longer than that. So do we have a backup plan B so that we don't impact this forthcoming crab season so we can maximize it?
Yeah, one of the things actually I should have mentioned, in addition to the fact that Mr. Black will be the person initiating the draft agreement, coming out of that harbor meeting that we had with Ernie and Rich, Rich basically came forward at that meeting and said, obviously it's not their first choice, but they are ready, willing, and able to fire up the old plant again at the harbor so that Mr. Albert knows he has some kind of wastewater processing available if we're not able to pull all this together by December 1st. I think we're all keeping that date very high in our priority, in our vision and on our priority list. We don't want to let that slip by, but we now have the harbor saying that is something that they can make happen. And they had a fairly active crab season last year, and again, it's not a real pretty plant to look at, but it survived and got through it.
Right. And I heard through the grapevine that the harbor actually gave Mr. Albert a long-term lease to actually review. I haven't seen it or I haven't heard that officially, but I did hear that, so I'm hoping it's true.
Well, that was one of my questions, because the last I heard was his lease was up on June 30th. So,
yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So, all good stuff. Good job, city. Woohoo!
Thank you.
Go team.
Good.
All right. Any public comment? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to approve a resolution of acceptance and authorize the mayor to execute a volunteer fire assistance program agreement with the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, Mr. Butler and Mr. Wakefield.
Yeah, Mayor, I'm going to, since we rarely get a chance when Steve is here.
I know his radio hasn't gone off.
95% of the time he gets called out. So
wait, it's not over yet.
Yeah, so we're going to have him come up and talk a little bit about the grant and what it's all about. The one thing I want to point out is on the agenda we're authorizing the mayor to sign it. In the resolution, we wrote it up as the city manager. So I would prefer if you can make that change and adopt the resolution to allow the city manager to execute the grant agreements. And we're talking about, I think, $6,000, so it's not a huge...
Bob, what was that? We have an ordinance in place that allows the city manager to sign. But we were going to change that, or what was, I can't remember.
No, we weren't going to change it. It's in place, and it allows the city council to delegate to the city manager the right to sign contracts. Normally speaking, the government code requires that the mayor execute contracts, which is still can happen. But we don't have an ordinance that allows us to drop that down another level to department heads, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend that we do that. I think we should keep it at the city manager level at least.
Sure. I was just clarifying that we do have the ordinance in place that allows that.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome, Mr. Wakefield.
Thank you. I haven't had any calls because we ran out of our abundance of calls over the weekend and last night and this morning, so it's been a little quieter.
I saw code 3, I think, this afternoon as well, heading out.
North Crest.
North Crest.
Medical issue in one of the trailer courts. But we did have a couple really ugly wrecks over the night, so anyway, but everybody's alive. So
that's good.
What this contract or this agreement is about is we wrote a grant to finish our wildland gear program to purchase it. The city had not had wildland gear in the past, and in 2008 we wrote a grant then, and we were awarded the grant and then told that the state's in trouble, you can't spend the money. Well, this last year in the 09-10 budget, they allowed us to purchase it, and we've just got that, and we got like 15 sets. So this grant is going to finish that project by giving us enough money to buy the rest of the sets, and that's new fire shelters and lightweight fire clothing, and not like what the city bought last year for structural firefighting. This is for wildland, where we use it, beach fires, things like that, not interior firefighting.
So this is reimbursed by a grant?
Yeah, it's actually a matching grant, so you're going to spend half of it, and they pay half of it, so that's how it works. But I think we have plenty of money in the budget to do that, so it's not.
Okay, so just let me clarify. We're going to pay $65.65, and the state's going to pay $65.65?
That's correct.
Okay, great. I think that's really important, especially when we've had some pretty severe fires up in the Gasky area, that we are able to assist with proper equipment.
Belmont County, our only option is to rely on everybody, and we have to do that. And I know you've heard me talk about that before, and so everybody needs to be equipped with the proper safety gear to do the job. And this way, we're paying 50 cents on the dollar for it, so that's better than buying it outright.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions, council?
No, I applaud the chief, though, for being on top of this grant, being available.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any public comment? All right, we'll close public comment, bring it back to the council. And if you would, whoever makes the motion, please amend it to authorize the city manager to sign the agreement.
I'll move to adopt resolution number 2010, is it 11?
21.
2010-21, with the amendment to have the city manager, Rod Butler, sign it.
I'll second that.
Okay. Please pull the vote.
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Westfall?
Yes.
Councilmember, I almost said Burns, Murray?
Yes.
Councilmember Slurt?
Yes.
And Mayor Shalong?
Yes.
Thank you.
And let's note that the file that I was given earlier is no longer valid. It'll need to be changed to Mr. Butler. Okay. Consider and approve a resolution entitled, oh, I'm sorry.
What?
Never mind. I finished that.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it again. Legislative matters.
Nothing to report this time. We'll consider your support for local fishing industry at the next council meeting.
Yeah, I've given a lot of background information and copies of some letters the County Board of Supervisors have written in support of our fishing industry to Mr. Butler, and we'll review those and come up with an appropriate letter for this council to consider at our next meeting. Reports, concerns, referrals. Catherine?
I can't think of anything that I've attended.
Okay, Ms. Westfall?
No, nothing right at the moment.
Mr. Slurt?
I have a couple items. First, I'd like to salute Mr. Butler for his recent Coastal Voices article regarding the Front Street improvements. I think it was very effective. It's about educating our citizens and the community. I guess I would also propose that we direct Mr. Butler to continue his Coastal Voices program in the spirit of education. In particular, I think an educational piece regarding the proposed repeal of the 2007 sewer rate rollback would be appropriate for the citizens to properly be informed. And I think if the citizens are properly informed, they will do the right thing. There's historic implications to what's been proposed, both to the city and to the citizens. And that's what's at stake for the city. I guess correspondingly, I would once again offer our colleague, Ms. Westfall, to offer a plan to avert a crisis, economic crisis for the city, should there be success with that proposed initiative. because I think the people would be interested in knowing what the plan would be by the people that have authored this particular effort. I'm also excited and looking forward to the formal opening of our wastewater treatment plant. It's, as I understand, online and actually functioning now. And I think it's a historic community achievement. So the sooner that we can acknowledge that, I think, the better. Also, I attended RCTA Commission this past week, and the RCTA continues to grow in its ridership fairly substantially.
That would be the Redwood Coast Transit Authority.
Right. And there's a new 5-day-a-week service to Hiuchi that's starting, so that should help those folks get into the city to conduct business.
That's great.
We have several new buses that are coming, I think 3 more this year. And we also have new bus shelters that are on their way that I think the community will enjoy and support. And they're supposedly going to have the iconic image of our Battery Point Lighthouse. He is sandblasted or etched into the glass.
Very nice.
As I understand, so it makes it unique to our community.
Could you follow up on that point, the bus shelter? I think I asked this about a year ago. The bus shelter on 2nd Street across from Pete's Auto and Marine, I'm told by the business owners in that area is not used and yet takes up parking, the only parking that their business has in that area, and they hardly ever see anybody use it. So maybe it could be relocated to somewhere that would be much more user-friendly and
Great.
business-friendly.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, I would like to make a comment at this time. It's very pertinent and goes to the question of Charles Slurt and a plan for what happens if the sewer rate rollback passes.
Sure.
I actually do have a 12-point plan that I would like to put on the agenda for discussion. And I'm just waiting for a callback from my attorney, Timothy Biddle, at Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association to get the green light to discuss it.
Okay. Why don't you work that out with Mr. Butler when the time is appropriate? Coastal Voices, good job.
All right, thanks.
Woohoo! We have a lot of woohoos tonight. I'm going to ask Bob to give us a little insight on your request to do the Coastal Voices on the sewer initiative. I do believe that the city has to be very cautious in how they provide information to the community, and so could you maybe give us a little insight on to what our rights are? And the reason is because it's an initiative that's in the court process, so.
Well, if there are city resources spent with reference to an initiative that is on the ballot, whether the city put it there, its citizens put it there, whoever put it there, the city can be informative and educational, but cannot engage in advocacy.
Okay, so he could provide an overview outlook on what may or may not happen should the initiative pass in November.
If it's educational, yeah.
So
I mean, well, let's start with a very basic thing. If the initiative passes, then, and is, assuming that all legalities aside, if the initiative simply passes, then people's sewer rates will go down by $16.50 or something like that, and then there's a future sewer rate increase of $3.25 that would be avoided. So for him to state those two things right there, those are just facts. There's no advocacy there. That's just educational. Take it for good, take it for ill. Those are just facts. So starting with that type of analysis, and then you can project from there to the total loss of revenue. You can compare that to other revenues that the city experiences.
So can you say, for instance, you may, as a consumer, save $16 or whatever the number is. However, based on losing a third of our general fund, you could possibly lose any law enforcement protection, possibly lose a portion of our fire protection, lose access to our parks, not access, but our ability to maintain our parks, our ability to maintain our streets will go away. Those is that the education that we can provide?
I think
And
that,
again, can we do that
yeah.
based on that financial analysis that was done?
well, I think the problem with that is that if you're going to spend city funds doing that, then you're getting pretty close to the line, because who's to say whether we would close the police department and save the parks, or do something else, make a different fiscal decision.
Close the pool and only lay off half of the city police, or, yeah.
Those are future determinations for the city council to make. I think there are some neutral things that you definitely can say.
I think the way that I stated it in the March 1st financial analysis, which was basically, here are I think it was 7 or 8 bullet points. Here are
Here are your
major
choices.
areas of, well, yeah, and I didn't even really get down to, we would have to cut X dollar amount here, X dollar amount there, but it just listed, here are the programs where most of the general fund dollars go. And to say, if the city were to have to come up with general fund resources to pay the SRF loan, this is an example of where most of the general fund money goes, and then let people make that connection.
And
we would obviously go back
and if he
look
did
at
it in a Coastal Voices that's not a paid advertisement, is that different?
Well, I think there is a little problem that we're paying him to write it. If the mayor writes it, we're not paying the mayor to write it. The mayor's a politician who can write what she wants. And so there's just a lot of different facets to the whole thing. And before the city does...
So the 8 cents an hour that I get for the time that I put in isn't considered paying me?
No, it's not, believe it or not. It's not an expenditure of city resources for you to take the time to write the column. Why? Because the column is not part of your job description. And so you could write a column. It would be an advocacy column, obviously. It might not carry the same weight as the city manager. On the other hand, it would be legal, whereas having the city manager write an advocacy column would not. So that's the difference.
Okay.
So I think there's 2 things. One is, are you spending city resources? That's the very first question. And the second question is, are you advocating or educating? And even if you're spending city resources, you can educate, but you can't advocate.
I think, yeah, okay.
So-
Thank you. Thanks for clearing. I knew that there was a fine line there, so thanks for helping us understand that. Let's see. It's been somewhat slow, a couple weeks since our last meeting. I've just basically done some city business, and I would guess the biggest thing to report would be my involvement with the Solid Waste Authority and the meetings that we've had. And as you all know, the authority voted 4-1 in June to retain Recology. The lone vote to negotiate with Hambro was myself. After that, there was a large public outcry, if you want to call it that, for the authority to reconsider. And I received, as a board member, approximately 175 emails from the public in support of reconsidering for Hambro. I also received about, I don't know, 10, 15 phone calls. Those were for both Recology and Hambro. It was put on the agenda for reconsideration, and we had a packed house, and somewhat sad, because, you've got Recology employees, Hambro employees, and obviously they're all fighting for their futures, which wasn't, a good environment, but just very passionate, and the community is very passionate about doing business here locally. And so a lot more information was shared and lots of public input. And as the dissenting vote, I was not allowed to make a motion to reconsider. It had to come from the 4 board members that voted in favor of Recology. So those 4 board members, and Catherine was there as an alternate for Dennis, chose not to reconsider. And so negotiations are moving forward with Recology. And our ad hoc committee has met 4 times now in reviewing all of the negotiation process and agreements. And we'll meet again tomorrow night with Recology, actually, and hopefully move forward quickly so they can start ramping up. The good news is that Recology has provided this community with good service for the most part, and I think that they're looking forward to continuing that relationship for our county and city, and we are going to have much better service when the new contract is enforced in 2011. We will have, I'll just summarize real quickly some of the points. You're going to be able to choose from 20, 32, 64, or 96 gallon carts for your garbage. With that, you can have 30 gallons or 32 gallon or above cart for all your recycling, which is obviously, if you start recycling more, you're going to have less garbage to pay for. And also organics will be added. So the recycling is part of your fee, but organics is a separate charge. But you could choose to have a third cart for all of your organic recycling. So I know a lot of people are excited about that option. And all of those carts will be provided by Recology. We're kind of joking around about this huge influx of garbage cans that will no longer be in use and what we would do with them, So if you have any ideas, let us know.
Use them on 4th of July.
Oh, yeah.
Good point. So that's basically where we're at with solid waste, and much more work to be done, and hopefully we'll come to an agreement in the near future. And I think that's about the biggest thing that I've participated in. And just want to thank again our city staff for continuing to move this city forward in tough times. So thank you. And thank you for being here this evening. And meeting is adjourned.
No.
Oh, sorry. Turn that back on. We are reconvening into closed session at this time. And we anticipate no action being taken. But I will take public comment at this time if there is any for closed session items. Seeing none, thank you very much.